Hey guys, I'm here with my best friend Tyler. Let's get into this makeup application. Okay, so I'm using a really lightweight moisturizer all over his face using a synthetic brush. I really want to make sure that his skin is ultra moisturized because I want to achieve a very natural, radiant finish on the skin today. This is supposed to be natural makeup, so you really want to take the time for skincare. Okay, now we are putting a pore minimizing primer. Tyler has some scarring and just texture on the sides of his skin that he's not super comfortable with, so I want to make sure that everything is smoothed out. And fanning his face to make sure everything is dry. Okay, we have a very tan toned foundation, so I am adding a bit of green color corrector. This is a trick I like to use to neutralize foundations that might have a orange or pink tone. So now that that is all mixed up, I am applying that to the face. Make sure to give your model directions. They typically don't know where on earth to look or where to put their head, so make sure you remember that they probably don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, now I am using a dampened sponge to apply the foundation to his face. I'm making sure to press the foundation in rather than swipe it. That way I get an extremely even coverage. I also like this application method if I'm trying to achieve a more natural look. Especially when working with men, make sure you take that coverage over the chin and neck areas where they can tend to have a 5 o'clock shadow. This will just make sure everything is a nice, even base. I could go on for hours and hours and hours blending this away. It is so satisfying, but we'll stop here. Okay, now I am applying 2 shades of concealer that I have mixed together under his eyes. He has very minimal discoloration, so I'm not taking too much time there. And just applying a little extra coverage over his 5 o'clock shadow. Now I use the sponge just to make sure everything is flawlessly blended. Looking good, Ty. Okay, now I am using a translucent setting powder, and I'm using a pretty dense synthetic brush to really pack the powder into the areas that I feel might get oily later on. I made sure to apply extra powder around the nose area because this tends to be a place where people get extra oily. And I make sure to apply powder in all of the fine lines around the face just to make sure everything is extra smoothed out, especially over that texture on the sides of the face. I'm taking that down the neck as well just to make sure that foundation does not move around and get on his clothes. Okay, now I'm taking an ultra fluffy brush and applying some peach toned blushes, kind of peach pink tone family. That's where I'm sticking with today. Okay, I like to take a very minimal amount of product and apply it slowly. Build your color. Do not go in there with a bunch of blush at first because it can look very, very intense very quickly, especially with these types of colors. And I'm making sure to use a matte blush because he does have texture that he does not want emphasized. So if you use a shimmery blush, that can definitely bring out texture. I like to do a little across the nose to give a natural bronze finish as though he had been in the sun. It just looks extra healthy. Now I'm just applying a little bit of that around the remainder of the face just to give him some more color. Okay, now for the contour, I'm using a very small fluffy brush and just slowly building that contour. I want it to be very natural again. I don't want it to come off as a stripe on the face. I want it to just appear as a shadow. And I made sure that these contour shades were cool toned, but also had that bronzy shade that his skin naturally has. You don't want it to come off as too brown or muddy on the skin. I'm being very, very light-handed. I feel like contour is the one place that can go from 0 to 100 real freaking quick, so I'm just taking my time with that. Alright, my favorite trick is to apply some translucent powder over the work you've just done with the face powders. This just makes sure that everything just becomes more subtle and it blends in with your foundation. Now I am taking a palette of highlighters and going into the more golden tones and just applying that on the very, very high points of the face. I don't want that to go too low into the cheeks. Just applying that over the cheekbones, a bit on the nose, and I'm focusing it on the higher point of his nose so that it looks lifted. And I'm using a very, very loose brush. This is not a dense brush because I don't want the application to be heavy. Now I'm taking another tone of highlighter. It's more of a gold shade, and I'm applying that over top. I think it kind of subdued the highlight that I had already applied, and it made it more warm toned, which I think is super flattering on his skin tone. Yas, come through with the highlight. And I'm using my finger because honestly, sometimes that is the best application method. He is singing that song. Okay, now I'm applying some setting spray just to make sure that all the powders melt together and don't have too much of a powdery look. And I'm taking a copper pigment and some bronze shadow that I'm scraping out of this palette and just mixing them together to create a custom color. I wanted something that was in the same color family as what I had applied to his cheeks. And I'm just going in with my finger. I really love using my fingers for pressed pigments or loose pigments. It really just makes it stand out. Now I am taking the loose pigment by itself, which is a lighter copper, and I am pressing that into the center of the eyelids, just for extra dimension. Now taking the deeper bronzy shade, I'm going under the lower lash line. Not too much. I am keeping this very minimal with a very, very tiny pencil brush. And going just ever so slightly up into the upper V of the eye, just to blend the two tones together. Again, I do not want this to look like a smoky eye, I just want it to lightly emphasize his lower lash line to make his eyes pop a little more. Now I am taking a completely clean brush. This is a pretty big blending brush, and I am just taking that over the edges, and I'm not disrupting the pigment I laid down, I am just going over the edges. Now I'm taking that tiny pencil brush again and going into the inner corners of the eye with that gold highlight that I put on his face earlier. I'm taking my time to slowly build the pigment. Like I said, you don't want to go in with too much too quick. I like going back and forth between the face and the product and making sure that I'm just picking up what I need, because I can always add more. Okay, now I'm taking those same contour shades I used on the face and I am applying this to the inner corner and bridge of the nose, just under the brow. This is a technique I've seen used on the runway just to really amplify the eyes. I don't know what it is about it. I think it just makes your eyes and your brow bone look a lot stronger. I'm really into it, so I wanted to try it out on his face and I think it was actually really successful. I think it made his eyes stand out quite a bit. Okay, we have got that beanie on his head and we are just trying to cover up his colored hair and kind of cheat like he has his natural brown hair. Alright, now I am taking a brown eyebrow gel and just applying that all through his brows, making sure to fluff that backward and forward to coat the entire brow. He has bleached eyebrows right now, so I can make them any color I want, which is awesome. But like I said, we're gonna go for his natural brown tone of his hair, and I think it's looking pretty good. I'm making sure to brush that upward so that his brow hairs stand up and are secured. I'm taking some extra time to reshape his brows. Since they are bleached, I can add the pigment anywhere I want to and exclude it from the brows that I don't want to show up. So by avoiding the hairs that are higher and lower down, I can actually make it look as though he has a thinner brow, which I was really feeling for this look. So I noticed that he has kind of an ashy darker tone to his natural hair color, so I'm just adding a darker, ashier brow gel color, mostly on the bottom part of his brows, and just working that through in the same way. I think this ended up looking like a very good color combination for him. And I'm just using an angled brow brush to just make sure everything is blended out seamlessly. Okay, now I am taking some mascara. This mascara is very black and very volumizing and very lengthening. And in a second, you'll see that I decided it was a little too strong for this look. I wanted it to look a little more natural, so I ended up going in with that same brow product that I used in that ashy brown tone, and I actually just applied a little coat of that over the black mascara, and I think it gave it a much more natural look. I was very, very happy with that. Okay, now I am making a custom mixture of lip glosses. I'm using a bright peach tone and a very, very light neutral tone. And I'm just applying this lipstick that mimics his natural lip color in the center of the lips, just as a base of color, since his foundation kind of took all the color away. And I'm using an angled brush to apply those lip glosses. Yes, come through glossy lip. He had a little bit of dry lip action going on, so I just wanted to cover that and make sure everything looked really fresh and moisturized and natural. I love glossy lips. They always just look very healthy. Alright, I hope that was as fun for you to watch as it was for me to apply. Alright, Tyler, he is really feeling himself right here. Yes, look at those poses. Alright, see you in the next video. Bye.